Need a website for your business, but not looking to break the bank for one? I've got you covered. Hi, it's me, Ashley M. Lyle, founder and CEO of BLAQN and host of the Black Queens on Stage podcast. And yes, I also have a website business, Sites by Lyle. I can create a dynamic website for your business that will showcase your work, wow potential clients, and close more sales. So contact me on my Instagram at Sites by Lyle to schedule your free 30-minute evaluation so we can get you started on your new website. Welcome to the Black Queens on Stage podcast, presented by Black Literature and Art Queens Network, where we bring our queens to the stage. Welcome to the podcast where we honor and acknowledge Black women performers and discuss racial issues within Michigan performing venues. I'm Ashley M. Lyle, and today I am joined with the tremendously talented exotic dancer or entertainer and freestyle rapper, Pretti Teej. Hey, Pretti Teej.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I can't complain, I can't complain, honestly. Thank you for having me. I'm honored. I'm honestly honored.
Yeah, definitely. Like I was telling you before, I just recently interviewed Moses and saw that she had a podcast, and I saw your picture on there. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna get in touch with her as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your guys' podcast before we get into the interview.
Okay, sure. It's called Everyday-ish Pod. Again, it's with myself and Moses the God. We talk about things under the categories of cultural awareness, relationships, and entertainment. So pretty much anything that falls under those categories, we try to, touch on it and give either our personal opinions or some stats or, talk about what's going on in the world, or anything like that. But yeah, we try to, empower our listeners and, just give people advice on different topics and try to get your brain thinking a little bit on those type of subjects. So
Nice. Well, let's get into this interview then.
alrighty, let's do it. Let's do it.
So explain what inspired your stage name.
Oh wow. Pretti Teej. Okay, so all my life, pretty much, I've heard that I was pretty. Like, oh my God, you're so pretty. So that's where the pretty part came from, to be honest with you. And then Teej is one of my favorite nicknames. I have a lot of them. People, because my first name is so hard to pronounce, I either go by TJ or Teej, and Teej was just something that kind of stuck with me. Like back in high school, I think it was, somebody started to call me that. So I just combined those two, honestly, because I thought it worked really well.
Okay. That you might as well go by something that'll be recognizable all the time.
I like battled with the name because I felt like it needed to be maybe more special, maybe not as simple, but I think just for the type of performer that I am, I think it fits me very well. So yeah, that's why I decided to
Yeah.
just roll with the Pretti Teej.
Yeah, and it's super recognizable, super easy to remember. I just did an interview with a burlesque and exotic dancer by the
Hmm.
name of Fearless Amaretto.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
actually they have the salutation Queen, Quing. So it's a
Mm.
combination of queen and king because
And King.
they're by gender.
Yep. Yep.
And so Queen Fearless Amaretto. And they told me that their dead name, it means in English fearless. So they kept that and then
Yeah.
added amaretto because they had a drink that was I think it was the amaretto sour or something like
Oh
that.
wow.
And
Okay.
they thought that it was just perfect because it was feminine sounding drink and it had a sweet taste, but it hits you in the back of the neck. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
they put that together, Fearless Amaretto. I'm like, that's a perfect stage name. That is a perfect
Yeah.
reason to have that stage name.
Yeah, I'd like that a lot, honestly.
Hmm.
Also someone like once told me I was like sitting in a studio session with my best friend. He's an artist as well, but this was a while ago. But he was explaining, the guy that he was working with was explaining like how all the great kind of have like a two-part name, if you will, like Michael Jackson, Chris Brown, and it's like a ring to it. My best friend's name is Arthur Johnson, so he was trying to get him to like step into that realm of great artists, I guess you could say. So that's kind of also where the whole two part to my name thing also kind of came from as well. So yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, why don't you explain to our audience what is a Dom exotic dancer?
So honestly, depending on who you ask, you may get a different answer. But in my opinion, or how I see exotic dom dancers, are masculine women who perform in a more dominant way. Not necessarily like you would see a entertainer who is like on the pole entertainer, but more so just kind of a dominant style of entertaining. Something that grabs your attention, but also can be feminine, but also not as feminine as some of the other entertainers that some of the other female entertainers that you may come across.
Hmm. Describe your style of exotic dance and your style of freestyle rapping.
Honestly, rapping was something I kind of took a break on. I do sing as well, but I kind of put those two talents, I guess you could say, on the back burner just because I'm more passionate about dance.
Hmm.
I always tell people that I feel like I danced out of the womb, but Dom exotic dancing was not something that I started to take serious until about 2017. So just to go into like a little bit more about like me, I used to dance at some of the LGBT parties or clubs, if you will, as a teenager.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I was introduced to the whole exotic world. But in 2017 is when I really started to take it serious as a craft and not just my passion. So I started to, study the exotic world a lot more in 2017. So my style is a combination of hip hop dancing, a little bit of comedy in my sets, if you will. Like I like to show my personality. And, of course, it gets a bit, grown people stuff is what I like to say. But yeah, I'll say it's a combination of my hip hop style that I like to show, my personality as far as, kind of be funny or, making you laugh, as well as giving you an actual show. Because I feel like to be an exotic entertainer is to give the ladies a show. So that's what I try to do each time I hit the stage, is to actually give you a show. Meaning, I don't have to, bring anybody out, from the audience and have them participate, because I really want you to, be in tune with my music and the song selections that I have and things like that. I like to tell a story with my mixes. So that's why I said, like, depending on who you ask, like depending on the type of dancer that you ask, you may get a different, answer. But for me and my set, I like, to tell a story with my mixes.
Do you also do comedic routines, or do you just happen to embed comedy into your dance routine?
I think I just embedded really. Like honestly, I was working on a mix a little while ago and just trying to find little like snippets of maybe like comedy acts or beginnings of songs that kind of play towards the story that I'm trying to tell, because I found that when like different crowds want different shows, if you will, like a different states or different women around the country, they like different things. Like not all ladies like to see the same thing. So that is constantly like in my mind when I'm creating my mixes, because I make my own right now. I don't do my walkout. A walkout is like your intro song and it has like breaks and ticks and hits in it. I don't really make those, but my actual entire show, I make that myself. So I try to think about, like upcoming next week, I have a show in Vegas and their crowd is like they like to be hyped up and they want to see you actually dance and your song selection and things like that. But like when I'm at home, like back in Detroit, it's a different vibe. I dance a little slower, or I might do a local song from Detroit or something like that. So it's really just understanding. I feel like your audience has a lot to do with what I do, at least.
Hmm. And that's definitely something that I want to touch on. I have a question in regards to different audience types when you're
Hmm.
performing.
Hmm.
So explain your process to me of preparing for a show. Like what inspires your song choice, your costume? How long do you practice for your routine?
I try to do different themes. So like I said, I try to tell a story. So with this mix that I'm working on now, it's kind of hard to well, yeah, I try to just tell a story and have a theme with my story. So a lot of the songs are either maybe talking about the same thing, like the lyrics, kind of match each other, or they kind of reference each other, or it plays along with like my outfit that I have on. So like for example, if I have army fatigue on or camouflage, I'll do like army related songs like Soldier by Destiny's Child, or something that mentions a lieutenant or a warrior or something like that, versus if I was to do something more slow like Pretty Ricky, Your Love Like Honey, I would bring some honey out during the show. So it kind of just depends on like what I see, if you will, because like what I see for the show, if that makes sense at all. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's really based off a theme. For me at least, it's based off a theme, and my outfit kind of plays into those songs as well.
And how long do you practice your routine?
You know what? I'm always dancing, so I don't necessarily like each of my mixes, or sorry, each of my sets aren't rehearsed, if you will. I just like to dance, so it's not like a routine that I'm coming up with. It's just
Mhm.
really I let the music and my body like really do what it wants, in that moment. So yes, I practice. Like when I practice, I'll play my mix and I'll just listen to it and I'll dance, around the house or wherever I may be at, practicing. I'll just, get a feel for the music, and I'll, get a better understanding with my body, if you will, as to what I may want to do in a certain area. But it's not like a choreographed, rehearsed kind of routine that I do. It's all freestyle. All my sets are freestyle.
So in the middle of like one of your shows, if you are doing a song that incorporates food, how messy does that get? Because because you were saying
uh,
that you would bring out honey. I can only
yeah.
imagine that you like sticking to the floor at some point.
Yeah, you try to bring out props towards the end of your set. So the honey, kind of thing would be something I would do like towards the end of my mix. But I mean, depending on how creative you are, it could go either way. So like some people I've seen, like some people like do a guitar or bring a guitar out because in the song that they're performing to, it has a guitar solo or something like that. So it really just depends on the performer themselves and what type of show they're trying to bring to the table. But it can get extremely messy when food is involved. I will say that, like, I've witnessed a lot of towels needed, and yeah, it can get there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I personally have never been to like an exotic dancer show or anything like that. Because I'm such a homebody. Plus, I'm
Yeah.
too much of a wet blanket. Because I I would be completely uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say a lot of women, feel that particular way. So I don't think you're the only one, that feels that way. But I do try to encourage people to go because it
Yeah.
is a really nice time. Like if you've never been to a male review, or an exotic dime review, or any type of show of that nature, I do feel like everybody in the world needs to get it under their belt. Like go one time, just so you can see what it's about. It may not be for you, ultimately, but
Mhm.
it's a great experience. I try to project that off, on other people, that, not every entertainer is the same. You
Mhm.
have entertainers who can't really dance, but they can perform and put on a good show. And you have like vice versa. You have people who, can dance and can't really perform and put on a show. Or you have, people that can do both. They can dance and perform, because it is a difference. Like, and a lot of people don't truly understand that, in my opinion. But yeah, I encourage a lot of people to give it a try if you haven't already.
Mhm. So when you were doing your freestyle rap, when it was
Mhm,
a frequent moment for you,
mhm.
is there some type of preparation or practice that you have to do to keep yourself ready for any freestyle battles or ciphers?
I think I would just really like either practice with myself, or like have, if I'm like in a car with a friend, or something like that, I'll just, start freestyling or whatever have you, and it'll be more like a playful kind of thing. I think that is what helps me prepare for those more serious moments, when I'm able to be myself and like show my true personality, and not necessarily be as serious in the moment, but that's kind of how I really go about any type of, performance that I may have. I try to always remain myself. So I feel like being around people that know me and then being in my element, whether it be dancing or, rapping or singing or whatever have you, I kind of just, think about how can I remain myself in these moments. So whether it be, at a cipher or at a dance battle, whatever have you, I always want to just be me. I don't know if it's the way to prepare to be me, but that's kind of how I look at it, if that makes sense at all.
Hmm. So I think I'm in such awe of rappers and poets because it's a level of talent that I feel like I don't have in regards to
Mm,
putting correct words together to get a proper flow.
yeah,
And but to be able to do it completely on the off the top of your head in that moment, I think is
yeah,
just light years ahead of what
yeah,
I could even think of doing. So
yeah.
I guess my question for you is, how do you know what words to rhyme with? How do you know to syncopate your words in a way to be in those rap battles or ciphers?
I really think it's just a feeling.
Mhm.
Like you said, though, not everyone can freestyle. Like, I'm also a good writer. So I think writing just has a lot to do with it in general. So, like, I'll, write a verse or whatever have you. But if it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to want to, share that with other people. So I think it's just a feeling that you really get into to be like in your zone. That's a thing. Like, people be like, I'm in my zone, or, people always say that, but I don't think people take that as serious as they should, only because like when you're in the atmosphere of other artists, you can feel that energy. You
Mhm.
can feel another, especially another artist that, you guys may make the same type of music, or, you talk about the same type of things. You can feed off of that energy. So like for me personally, if I'm, in a cipher, I'm next to somebody and I'm really enjoying what they're saying, that's going to, like pump me up to, really be thinking about what kind of combination of, lyrics I could be coming up with as well. So it's really like an inspiring experience, just to be in the atmosphere of like other artists. So I think that plays a lot into it for me personally. Like, like I said, like being able to be myself, but also, basking in the ambiance of, the whole experience. I think that has a lot to do with it. So
Mhm.
I don't know if it's like a science really. I think it's just,
I mean,
you gotta feel it.
right. I mean, honestly, I just feel like poets and rappers are just lyrical geniuses. Like, period. Because even as I'm talking with you right now, I
Mhm.
stumble over my words constantly.
Mhm.
I constantly stumble over my words, and I think that's just because my mouth doesn't move as fast as my brain will allow. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I'm very and I hate to use the word jealous, but I am jealous because I want that ability. I want it
Yeah.
so bad.
It is a skill. It is a skill. Like, not everybody can't rap. Like, I've
Right.
not to sound like, a hole, but that I feel like being a lyricist and then just knowing how to rap is two totally different things. Like,
Mhm.
music nowadays is more so, I feel like, like rappers just rapping about anything. But when you have a lyricist that can really, put together a nice flow, or really, give you some metaphors to think about, those are the type of artists, that I've found that I really like gravitate towards. Like, tell me about your pain, tell me about your experiences. I don't want to really hear about, jury and all of that. Like, it's fine, like
Mhm.
that's cool, you know what I mean, but give me some substance. I like music with substance, music with meaning, music that I can relate to, music that, tells our struggles. I feel like, just as, African Americans, as women, as men, whatever have you, I want to know about it. I don't want to just, it's cool to be bouncing in the club, but after the club, what we gonna listen to? Like,
Right.
that's what that's what I'm thinking about. So I think it's just really the style of, that particular person and how they get inspired. Because like I said, not everybody can rap, and that's just facts, honestly.
And through this journey of me interviewing different Black artists, in total have interviewed 3 rappers, Moses included. But I've
Mm,
also gotten the chance to interview Mona Lise, and her
okay.
lyricism is just phew,
Yeah.
astronomical. astronomical. She's fantastic. The song that gravitated me towards her was her song called Niggas and Bills.
Mm.
And it was just flat out where she calls it her petty song. She said, it's okay to have a petty song, and I was like,
Yeah.
absolutely, have your petty song,
Yeah.
because that's the only way that you can get your frustrations out.
Yeah.
But then I started listening to her other stuff, and then she recently joined up with another artist, and it was a song in regards to Black Lives Matter, and it is so moving because she's also
Mhm.
a poet as well, an extremely talented poet. And the poem that she incorporated in this song was absolutely beautiful,
Yeah.
heart-wrenching. It just makes you listening, not just only listening to the song, but also listening to her poem makes you want to just continue to fight for what we're believing in regards to Black lives mattering,
Yeah. Yeah.
The other artist that I constantly talk on my podcast because I'm such a huge fan of hers is Crimson Alchemist. And she's a
Okay.
nerdcore rapper. So she incorporates nerd culture, pop culture in her flow. And it's
Okay.
just so cool. Meaning, and in my opinion, like, yay for rappers, woo. But when I come across female rappers and then they
Yeah.
got, sick, hard ass flows,
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I'm so
Yeah.
here for it.
Yeah, and that's honestly one of the reasons like why I take so much pride in like being from Detroit, because it's a lot of like underground female artists that a lot of people just have no idea really
Hmm.
how talented, they truly are. So like when you have people like Moses, for example, like I'm so mad that she doesn't make music anymore,
Me too.
because why? You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
I know, it's a few more artists, like I can't say like her, but that are similar, to her and her style and things like that. So it's like it's amazing, like you said, to see those different types of artists, but also just the things that they are able to, come up with either when in the studio or, freestyling, or if if you're more of a writer, kind of rapper, it's amazing. I honestly sometimes I kind of regret, not pushing music, a little bit more, but also I feel like it's enough artists in Detroit, enough female artists in Detroit for it to get done. So, I'm waiting to see, just how far we can go, honestly.
Hmm. So how do you keep your audience hype and wanting more during your dancing performances?
I really think it's the song selection. Like that plays so much into your show. It could either hurt or help you, honestly. Like if you pick, a song that none of the women in the audience know, then, they're kind of just gonna be looking at you like, oh, what's next? Kind of thing. So I like old I have an old soul, so I try to do, some of the older records, or, records that you aren't hearing nowadays, to try to hype the ladies up, or, just keep them interested is really what it's about. Mainly
Hmm.
because like at a lot of so like at male review shows, which are predominantly for women who like men, that is always in the back of my mind. Like I know they're not coming here to see me specifically, but if I give them enough of who I am, I feel like at the end, of my set, they're going to remember me.
Hmm.
So that's, how I think about it. And that's the whole, you got to know your audience's thing. Because, I could go to a LGBT show and pretty much do whatever I want, you know what I mean? But on a male review, so that's a whole different circuit, because as I stated, those women are coming to see, men pretty much. So you got to think about, okay, maybe I shouldn't, play this song that I would play, for an LGBT audience. Let me play some old school Keep Sweat, or some, something that I know, some of those ladies are probably going to be more into, if you will.
Yeah, and that I bet that's really interesting to see. Now you've piqued my interest. Now I really want to check something out, because
Yeah.
I'm such a prude,
Mm.
when so going to see an exotic dancer show, it's something that
Yeah.
I just never really thought of seeing myself doing.
It can be a
Uh,
bit much. It can be
yeah,
a bit much.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just actually started watching P Valley on Showtime.
Okay. Mhm.
And no, not I'm sorry, not Showtime. Stars, on Stars.
Stars, yep. What you
And
just said, okay.
man, whew. For one, the very first episode, I was not ready to see all that booty. I'm
Yeah.
just I
See,
was
I
not
haven't got a chance to
prepared.
like watch it on my own, but I have been hearing about it and seeing clips and everything, on
Mhm,
social media and stuff like that. But yeah, like just to, back up what you were I feel like what you were like getting to say, like people don't really know what to expect until they actually are there or they can actually see it.
exactly.
So, that's why I tried to just say, "Hey, just go one time and if you don't like it, like that's totally fine. But
Mhm,
also keep in mind that not every entertainer that you come across is the same.
mhm,
So not every entertainer is going to give you the show that you may have seen, from the previous entertainer. So that's why I try to
mhm,
encourage people to go because each entertainer has a different style as well as like depending on where they're from. For example, Cali dancers dance totally different from people in the Midwest and vice versa.
mm,
So,
that's interesting.
it's yeah, it's a lot deeper than people I feel like give it a chance to be. So, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really interesting. Now,
Mhm.
what does your audience normally look like when you're performing? Like, do you see an influx of, and I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to this, but I gotta ask this question.
Yeah.
Do you see more of an influx of women versus men, black versus white?
Honestly, so at the male reviews, which is the shows that, have male dancers, of course, they don't allow men in those shows. So,
Okay.
it's really just the audience, the audience is full of women. Now, you do have some promoters who do throw shows that they do allow like not all male entertainers are comfortable dancing in front of other men, but you
Mm,
do have some men that don't mind doing that. So it can depend on the promoter, it can depend on, the state that you're in or, whatever have you. But for the most part, for myself, it's mostly women, of course, as well as they black, white, Latina, whatever have you. And they're mostly, I want to say, over 30 a lot of times.
mhm,
So, depending on like when I went home recently in Detroit, it was a bit of a younger crowd as well as an older crowd. So, it's like it can be a mix of, the different ladies that you may come across. But for the most part, it's strictly women. I've never danced in front of a man that wasn't a male dancer, if that makes sense at
mm,
all.
okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So, how have you progressed as a Dom exotic entertainer since the beginning of your career?
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy that you asked me that. 'Cause I was literally like having this conversation with myself like 10 minutes before this. But just thinking about the way I used to perform in the clubs, like as a teenager, my thing was dancing. Like I'm a dancer first. My little like slogan, if you will, is dancer first, entertainer second.
Mhm,
So I look at myself as a dancer first. So now that I'm starting to learn what it is to be an entertainer. My thing is trying to incorporate both dancing and entertaining in one. Because as I stated before, you have people who can't dance, but they can perform. And then you have people who can't perform, but they can dance.
mhm,
I, thank God, am a mix of both. But I'm
mhm,
still trying to, figure out exactly what I want my show to look like. So I'm thinking about like what I used to do in the clubs. Like in the clubs as a teenager, it was really just dancing. Like I would make up a routine and pick one song and I would do a routine, choreograph routine to that one song, and that was it. Like that was just it. But now, like after 2017, I started to get more into telling a story with my set, buying outfits, purchasing different props and different outfits in order to wear for the ladies. So I'm still in my learning curve, if you could say. Like even though I've been dancing all my life, pretty much the whole entertainment aspect is something that I know I still want to work on. So each day I try to think about how I can elevate my show, if you will. Like literally right now, I'm changing the show that I just did in Detroit. I want to add some stuff to it. I want to take some stuff out and really make it work for the type of show that I would like to put on for the ladies. So I think I've grown a lot, versus what I was doing in the past, but I also feel like I have so much more to learn and a lot longer to go. So it's crazy to hear people call me a rookie only because I've been dancing for so long, but I also understand the term just because I'm pretty new to the scene, but I'm not new to dancing, if that
mhm,
makes sense. So yeah.
mhm. Let me ask you this, and I ask all my guests this type of question.
Yeah.
As a Black woman in a
Mhm.
cis male dominated industry,
Mhm.
what kind of obstacles and challenges have you faced because you're Black and a woman,
Mhm.
and how did you overcome them?
I think one of the main things is, as I mentioned, like going to a male review and knowing that the lady most of the ladies are not there to see me. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I don't try to force the fact that I'm a lesbian on those type of audiences. So I think that is one of the big things that stick out for me personally. Like I am a lesbian from my head to my feet, but not everybody that is coming to these shows, agrees with that or even likes that. So I think that is one of the things that stick out the most for me, as well as maybe other entertainers, like other male entertainers who can be jealous. I didn't want to say it, but a lot of doms experience different situations with these male entertainers that kind of make it hard for us to continue to try to do business with some of these guys. So I haven't personally had an encounter with a male entertainer, but I know plenty of other dom dancers that have, where they're getting put out of events because they had an encounter with another male entertainer. Is normally due to a female. Of course it's always a woman involved, as the two entertainers was probably doing whatever with that young lady, and it just escalated. But those are some of the things that I've seen, just going to a show knowing that they aren't coming to see me, as well as maybe other entertainers being jealous or feeling away, if maybe somebody that normally would tip them is tipping you as well. Like
Mhm.
it can get pretty petty if you ask me. So
Like
yeah.
it's past the level of petty that was in the two Magic Mike movies, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you know what? Honestly, Magic Mike, it opened people's eyes a lot to, some of the things that dancers do deal with, but it's a lot that happens behind closed doors. And
Mhm.
just being a woman in the industry like that's tough enough in itself. Like it's a
Mhm.
lot of dom dancers, out here, but some of them are more popular than others. So you always see them on the show, and it's like, when you're like myself, I'm trying to it's out there, like my name is out there, but I'm pushing to get it more out there. So it's like
Mhm.
it can get kind of frustrating to continue to see those same dimes on the flyer, and it's like, well, y'all don't get tired of seeing the same people. Like I got some stuff too over here, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
I think it's really just, understanding the industry in itself, like what it is to be an entertainer. But yeah, it can get crazy behind closed doors. But I'm not the type to dwell into any of that. Like I like to stay to myself. Like we can be cordial, and I'll network with people that I need to network with, but I'm not out here in these women faces, like a lot of entertainers be. Like I'll speak to you, we can hug, say what's up, we can have a conversation, but that's it for me. And
Mhm.
it doesn't always work like that, with other entertainers. And that is what causes, people to clash. So
Mhm.
just me, seeing that, and, not experiencing it for myself, but just seeing it is just, it's enough for me to, know what I need to do and what I don't need to do at these shows.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that a lot of the male dancers, not a lot, but some of the male dancers don't know how to separate their sex work from their real life.
Yeah, that is a thing. Yes, ma'am.
Interesting.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Have
Because
you ever
I mean,
Mhm.
it's like I said, not all male dancers are the same, but a real entertainer or a real, performer is very passionate about what they do. So
Mhm.
you have people that love to perform because that's what they love to do, and then you have other entertainers who love to do it for the wrong reasons, like the money and the women and all the attention that you get.
Mhm.
So it's really just depending on the individual, and what they see themselves doing, I guess you could say, is kind of a way to put it. But yeah.
Have you ever felt like you had to work twice or three times as hard?
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Especially at the male reviews. Like at LGBT events, everybody is pretty much a lesbian. So, I know they want to see me. Maybe they don't want to tip, as much, but, I know they don't have a problem with me, shaking my tail feather because they like women too.
Mhm.
But, at going to some of these male shows, it's always that thought in the back of my mind, like, how can I elevate my show? Because I know, they probably aren't really coming to see me. Like some women, yeah, like they understand that it is a show, that we're putting on. So they don't mind it, but it's some women who like, oh, I don't, I ain't never like women, and so they think of it in that particular aspect, not thinking of it as I'm an entertainer too, just like these guys out here. So
Right.
that is a struggle. I feel like, women assuming that you're trying to, project your sexuality on them when at the end of the day, no, I just like to entertain.
Right. What you're saying, it kind of reminds me of what the character Mercedes in P Valley says all the time. She says that she's here to create that fantasy,
Yep,
just to create that fantasy
that's it.
for people to enjoy. And that's it.
That's it. And I know that like I know I'm here to, give you a fantasy. So some women show up expecting more than a fantasy, and I'm not the entertainer for that. So
Mm,
when you got those guys that, like you said, are mixing business with pleasure, that's when a lot of the crazy antics and all of that start to come into play, because
mhm,
people forget that the job is to sell a fantasy. When you're an entertainer, that is the point of being an entertainer, is to sell these women, or whoever your audience is, a fantasy. It's not about going home with you at the end of the night, because I'm not doing that.
mhm,
So, some people have forgotten that, over the years. I feel like that has been lost in the industry a little bit. Like, thankfully, it's some entertainers that do still understand that, but also, like I said, male and female entertainers that, be out here taking away from the fantasy, when we all supposed to be providing one, is what I'm gonna say. So,
mhm. So, explain a moment when you had to deal with a heckler in the audience.
mm. I wouldn't maybe consider it like a heckler. Like, they weren't speaking to me directly, but I have very good ears. And of course, not everybody around me knows that at all. But I was, Dan, I was performing, like, I want to say maybe like 2 minutes into my set. And I overheard a young lady basically just explaining the fact that she don't like, girls. She don't even understand why, they would allow me on the show, kind of thing. And it was just, I chuckled on the inside, but by the end of my show, she was up giving me a tip. So
Mhm.
I just didn't like, I laughed, about it, but that be the thing. Like, a lot of women, when they see a stud dancer, they automatically assume that, oh, I'm trying to turn everybody in the crowd into a lesbian. It's just like, no, I'm here to give you a show, just like these men are here to give you a show. So yeah, it was just a funny experience for me. It didn't really make me feel away, because like I said, I have that mindset in the back of my head all the time, especially with male reviews. But it was just interesting to, really, I was like dancing by her. So not like in front of her, but I was, over in her area, and then I heard it, and I went on to, finish my show, and then I look up and she was standing over me tipping me. So it was just like,
Mhm.
make up your mind, I guess. I don't
Right.
really, but yeah. Yeah.
And it's just it's so interesting because when you as you were talking about how some of these male dancers are, going past beyond the scope of their actual profession
Yeah.
and taking and bringing business into pleasure and vice versa. To
Yeah.
to me, that sounds like that's a level of male toxicity,
Mm.
because it feels like, we as humans, we all have that tendency where it's hard for us to actually separate our job from our lives, because
Yeah.
that job is so ingrained into our life, whether if
Consumes you.
it
Yeah.
whether if it's a career or if it's like your lifelong career, or just a job, something for you to get some money for.
Right.
But to be a sex worker, like an exotic dancer, and then to take that past the actual job description and to mess around with a client, that's a level of male toxicity that is just like, I don't know how to
It's
ex-
very
it's
it's
I don't know
very
how to explain it.
controlling. It's
Yeah.
very controlling. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't want to make it sound like the whole industry is just,
Right.
to shit, but you do have some entertainers who are telling, their supporters, like, you can't tip anybody but me. And
What?
yeah, like, that has been a
Wait
thing.
a minute.
That has been a thing. And my thing is, me personally, I want you to enjoy yourself. If you coming to see me, that's totally fine. But tip who you would like to tip. Like, I don't,
Right.
you work hard for your money. I can't tell you what you can and can't do with your money. But again, when you start, involving actual sexual relations, okay, outside of the fantasy that we're supposed to be providing, yes, people feel like they can control, other people and tell them, what they can and can't do or who they can and can't support, and it causes friction. It shouldn't
Mm-mm.
be any friction in this industry. I don't feel like that's my personal opinion. Like, it's enough
Yeah.
money out here for all of us. Okay, so all that, oh, I don't want you doing this, or like, come on, why does it have to be that way?
Yeah,
We should
that's no
all,
need.
yeah, exactly,
That's no
exactly.
need. Like,
I
everybody's
was
there to do the
shocked
same thing.
I was shocked to even find that out. Like, how can you even, as a grown man or woman, how can you tell another grown man or woman what they can and can't do with their money? Like, I don't even know how to understand that in my own brain. So I was really shocked to hear like some of the stuff that hear with some of these entertainers out here. It's
Hmm.
crazy. It's crazy.
That is crazy. So, what kind of moral support do you get for your artistic career?
So my family is a lot more supportive than I assumed them to be, only
Mm.
because my grandparents were, well, when I was born, they were off into the church. So that's pretty much, what they, instilled in me, if you will. So again, when I started taking it more serious in 2017, I felt a way because I'm like, what is Granny gonna think about me, shaking my tail feather and, I don't really take my clothes off either. And I think that also has a lot to do with the way that I was raised. Like, it took me a
Hmm.
while to start wearing pasties and like pulling, maybe pull my little bra down for a little second. Like, I wasn't doing that. But
Hmm.
I'm learning that it's a part of the whole entertainment aspect. So my family, they'll share videos and they'll, shout me out like, hey, if you need a dancer or whatever have you. But I didn't expect it to be that way. I was
Hmm.
assuming, that they would not really, be for it, honestly, just because, I am a lesbian, and, they know that more than anybody. So
Hmm.
it was always a thought in the back of my mind, like, how is my family going to feel about the fact that I'm out here doing this? But when I actually started to do it and they realized I was serious, and I'm promoting myself and I'm carrying myself in a certain way, I think that is what, allowed them to be more secure with it in themselves, if you will, and
Hmm.
just, ultimately look at it for something that I enjoy doing. So I appreciate my family and my friends also for that, like close friends. I've at first, when I started doing it, I did think about like how people would feel or what people would think about me doing it, only because I had stopped dancing. Like, I wasn't dancing in the clubs, for a couple of years. I had like put it off, like, oh, that's lame. Who about to be doing that? You know what I mean, kind of thing. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I've always been passionate about it, and I think that comes through when I dance. So I think that has a lot to do with why people are so supportive, in general.
Do you think that you would ever venture into other stage performance genres like burlesque or drag performance or go-go dancing?
I would go dance. I would for sure go dance. Only because I feel
Mhm.
like, I mean, that's who wouldn't want to go dance. I don't know, but that's something I thought about doing. Like that's popular, more popular out here on this side. Like, I'm in Phoenix, like on this side of the world. I feel like in Cali and stuff like that, you do see a lot of stud go dancers. Like, that's a thing. That's not a thing in Detroit. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's really about, I guess, what that individual is willing to do. I have considered maybe doing like I don't want to say a drag show, but like I'll dress up like Usher and do a couple Usher songs. I don't really know what to categorize that as, but I thought about doing, something like that. But
I mean,
I
I
don't know
think
if
you should
I
honestly just go full out and with the fake beard, and you already
yeah.
keep your hair lined up anyway, so
Yeah.
just do the whole thing and
Yeah,
once
it's a
they
thought.
get
It's honestly been a thought, cause
Mhm.
like in Detroit, there is a club called Gigi's, and they do
Oh
those
yeah,
type of shows.
I love
Yeah.
GG's.
Yeah,
Love
so
GG's.
I have thought about, trying to show my face in there a couple of times, but I don't know if it was just, with the whole move out of state thing, or just, trying to really get my set together, as an entertainer, as I kind of like strayed away from that. But like I said, out here in Phoenix, I'm sure it'll be an opportunity, and I'm an opportunist, so I'd try anything once, I feel like. But I
Mhm.
would I would definitely do the go-go and definitely maybe like the drag show. I don't really know what to call it when it's not like a drag queen doing it, but
Drag
yeah.
king. You would
Drag
be a
king.
drag
Okay.
king.
Drag king. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I would do something like that
Mhm.
for sure. I would do something like that.
And I was actually speaking to a burlesque performer who's also a drag performer, and
Okay.
I was telling them that like I have a secret desire to do a drag king performance.
Yeah. Yeah, do it. Do it.
I want to
Do it.
do like something either related to Bruno Mars or do
Mm.
Bruno Mars drag king performance. Something
Yes.
one of the two, but you know.
I'm for that. I am for that. Yes, do it. I like encourage like do it. You know, if you feel like you want to, go ahead and do it. Burlesque, I love like the movie burlesque. So
Mhm.
if it was like maybe a more masculine form of it, yeah, I probably would get my ass up there and do that too. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
For
and
sure.
I think that's where a huge difference lies because I've seen some male burlesque performers and they call it boylesque.
Okay.
I've seen that.
Wow.
It still has a slight feminine quality to it,
Yeah.
but it's still really interesting to see it and it's the same way with drag as well because I've seen drag king performances and it's a complete vibe. It's a complete vibe
Yeah.
difference versus drag queens.
Yeah.
Same thing with boylesque versus burlesque. Where burlesque you see more females or people with those with feminine like bodies that are doing
Yeah.
burlesque,
Yeah.
and it does have that feminine quality. I'm using air quotes to
Yeah.
create that same fantasy, much like
Yeah.
what drag king performances do, or even with exotic dancing entertainment. For example,
Yeah.
your profession,
Yeah.
So, but I feel like with exotic entertainers, there's more of a flexibility between the so-called gender definitions, quote unquote,
Yeah.
for exotic dancers because you can be a feminine exotic dancer or a masculine exotic dancer. So there's still that it feels like it's much wider than it
Yeah.
is like for burlesque or for drag.
Yeah, and also like that's why I was saying like a lot of entertainers have their own style. Like
Mhm.
for example, it's this entertainer, her name is Rush the Hybrid, and she is a dime entertainer, but it's a very feminine dime act, if you will. Like,
Mm.
she is gonna pull a, young lady out of the crowd and you're gonna get all of that. But like while she is dancing, she dances very feminine versus something like, somebody like myself or, some of the other dimes out here. I'm not about to twerk. Like I'll pop my little butt that I do got, but I'm not gonna be twerking and, doing all the things that she would do. So that's why I say like each entertainer brings something different to the table, I feel
Mhm.
like, and that goes along with just the whole, drag queen, drag king, the whole ballroom scene as well. Like Pose, opened the show Pose, opened up,
Mhm.
so many doors, I feel like,
Mhm.
just for, entertainers or, performers or whatever have you. Cause, it gives people, a place to feel like they belong to, I feel like. So I think it all plays a part in, in what it is that we do. Like,
Mhm.
whether you're on the ballroom scene or, you're LGBT or Q or straight or whatever have you, or whether you're a male exotic entertainer or dom or, feminine, entertainer. I think we're all a family. It's just, different ways of, being in that particular family. Cause I was approached about like being in a house a couple of times. Like they wanted me to do, I think it's called stud realness or something like that. I went to the Woodward one time and he was like, he thought I was a guy. And I'm like, yeah, no, I got titties under here. And he was like, oh my God, you would do so good in my house and, whatever. And I'm just like, that's not the same. Like like I said, I probably would do anything like once, but it's just like that wasn't the road like I saw myself, going down. Like I'm sure it would be fun, you know what I mean? Like I would enjoy it. I would get a chance to network and, all of that, but I would much rather actually put on a show, you know what I mean, versus just winning, like winning a trophy, I guess you could say. But
Mhm.
it's different aspect. And also like again with the whole Pose in ballroom scene, like have you been to the Woodward in Detroit?
I have not.
I would go on a Monday.
Mm.
It's not gonna be like an exotic show, so don't be scared. But they do have, they do have ballroom shows at the Woodward. So I try to encourage people to go. Like if you watch Pose or you're a fan of Pose and you kind of want to get a feel of the ballroom scene, go to the Woodward on a
Mhm.
Monday.
Mhm.
They have performers, they have shows, both transgender and gay, if you have whatever have you. But yeah, I would definitely check that out first. So let's do,
Mhm.
you go to the Woodward first,
Baby
and
steps.
then maybe you come. Yeah, baby steps, exactly, baby steps. Yes.
Well,
Just
it's
so you can get a feel, just
uh
a feel. Yeah.
is the ballroom scene at the Woodward something? Is it anything, or is it anything like what Gigi's does, or is it a much more extravagant?
If you go to the Woodward, I feel like you'll be able to relate to what they're doing a lot more, if that makes sense. I don't know.
So okay, so at the Woodward, they incorporate more Black culture there
Absolutely.
than they do at
Absolutely.
Gigi's.
Yep.
Gotcha,
Absolutely.
gotcha.
Yes, absolutely. You go to the Woodward and you'll truly understand, I feel like, that the world of ballroom a lot more than you may if you were to go to Gigi's. I feel like just because it's a lot more upfront and in your face.
Hmm.
Yeah, at the Woodward, I feel like.
They're performing in its real original state, because I mean the ballroom started with Black drag queens.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, so it's
Yep.
in its original state.
Yep. And
Okay.
the lip sync category is one of my favorite
I
categories.
love it
I
when they
will
lip
say.
sync. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it when they're precise with their lip syncing, because I've seen some
Yep.
where they're not precise at all, and then it just
Yeah.
looks like an absolute train wreck.
And that's why I said I feel like we're all a family, because you could
Mhm.
you could have an entertainer get up on stage and you just be like, what the hell? What is happening? You know what I mean? So it's like it all plays a part. Like it all plays a part. So
Right.
it's yeah, I've
Yeah.
I've had a couple of those situations like what are they doing up there? Like I don't even
Do you lip
are
sync
they
at all in your performances?
Yeah, of course I like sing the words, to the lyrics. So
Uh-huh.
I guess you could say yeah, it's a bit of a lip sync, but I like black out when I perform. So I'm like I'm
Mhm.
there, but I'm not there. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I'm definitely singing along.
Mhm. What kind of mistakes have you made in your career as a entertainer, and how are you a better artist because of it?
I feel like I have a big heart so I can be nice, and I've learned that people need to respect you as an entertainer and what you bring to the table. So not being so nice to these promoters and these people that want me to come out. I've learned that maybe getting a contract is a good thing, as an entertainer, just so they know, your stipulations and your guidelines when you come to these different cities. But also just dealing with different types of people and different types of promoters and entertainers, that's something that I'm still working on for myself. Like I know it's not always about the money for me, so that plays a big part into how I choose to go to some of these cities and some of these shows.
Mhm.
So I'm still trying to put my foot down in what I expect, from others, and not necessarily what I'm going to bring to the table, like for your event. So
Mhm.
my struggle is really just putting my foot down in, my demands as an entertainer, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely put your foot down when
Yeah.
to get paid. Girl,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. But like, each promoter that you may come across, they may handle, their things differently. Like not every promoter is, trying to, book you to come out. They just want you to come out kind of thing.
Right.
So it's like, you gotta really just pay attention to those situations that you may come across that are more beneficial to the promoter and not necessarily beneficial to you. Like I've had a couple of those instances. Like I went to an event without being booked for it. Like he didn't pay me to come. I just, came, and I was expecting the crowd and everything, all of that to be a lot more than it was. So I found myself being a little disappointed, but also it was okay because I did get a chance to network with other entertainers. I did get a chance to, gain a lot more supporters from going to the show. But also, like I said, I'm still learning that there has to be some type of guidelines drawn, when you're dealing with these promoters.
Mhm. My mentor, because I'm an actor myself, my
Okay.
mentor, he
Hmm.
told me a long time ago that your art needs to be paid for.
Yeah.
Your art needs to be paid for. I was doing a lot of community theater, and he said, "Honey, this is cute and all, but why the hell are you still doing community theater?
Yeah.
You need to be paid for your art." And if it wasn't for my mentor, I wouldn't be a professional actor right now,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and that's something I thought about. Like maybe I should be, trying to be a mentee to, some of these dancers, or at least one of these dancers that's, kind of been in the game a little bit longer, than I have. But also, I feel like I should be finding my own way, if
Mm,
that makes sense. So, I like I said, I do take into consideration advice that other entertainers have given me when it comes to dealing with entertainers and contracts, and or I'm sorry, promoters and contracts and things. But also for me, because I am like trying to get my name out a lot more, certain things, I don't mind it, not being on the table, if you will. So it's like I'm trying to find a balance in between getting my name out there, but also putting my foot down and, having these expectations because I am an entertainer and I do think, bring things to the table.
mhm.
So, being paid for my art is something that I can't say it always happens as it should, but in the direction that I'm going, that's where I'm headed. It's like, yeah, I'm not coming for free. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah.
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 What do you think your greatest accomplishment in your career is thus far?
Ah, wow. Honestly, I felt like I did a lot of traveling last year. Like in 2019, I had a lot of different shows in a lot of different cities. So that was an accomplishment for me only because I wasn't doing that in the previous years.
Mhm,
Like 2017, I was dancing at Club Ice in Detroit, with the guys, and that kind of died down. So I was, looking for opportunity really. And I found it, at a couple of places, in Detroit. We was, having parties and, throwing shows, but it still wasn't, really what I was trying to get out of it. So in 2019, I feel like that's really when things kind of started to turn for me as far as, getting my name out more and people noticing me, a lot more. So
mhm,
just being able to travel in that year and network with the people I was able to work with now, as at the point I'm at right now, I feel like it's paying off because I'm, starting to get in touch with more promoters, and, I'm gaining, that following that you will want as an entertainer. People are asking me, what cities am I going to be in, and, things like that. So
mhm.
it's yeah it's been it's been a process, and I'm still progressing like in my progress. But yeah, I'm definitely, it's still a learning process. Like, every day I feel like I learn something new about the industry and just about the people that are in it, but also looking back at how far I've come since 2017, because that's really like the time frame that I give myself, even though, like I said, I've been dancing, in the clubs way before that for many of years. But 2017 is really when I started to consider myself as a dom dancer. So from that point up until now, I've come a long way, honestly. In a short time, I've come a long way.
Mhm. So what advice do you have for aspiring exotic entertainers?
You got to put yourself out there. Everything starts with self. We always say that on our show, on our podcast, Everyday Ish. Everything starts with self. So if you know in your heart that you are passionate, okay, let me back up a little bit. First, First, please do it for the right reasons.
Mhm,
Okay. Don't try to be an entertainer for the money, because it's not always there. It's not always there. And that's just a fact. You have entertainers that's been dancing for, 20 plus years, and they may make $50 in a night. So
mm,
don't start to do it for the wrong reasons. If you have a passion for dancing or for entertaining, or, just being in front of a crowd, I feel like that is your start. Next, you want to put yourself out there. Promote yourself, get some outfits, get some flyers out here, start to reach out, to promote. That's what I was doing as, I started to, reach out. Instead of waiting on a promoter to come to me, I will reach out to a promoter and say, "Hey, I'm a rookie, or I'm the, rookie of the year in Detroit. Do you have any shows that you may, consider?" You gotta put yourself out there and just promote, promote, promote. Be confident. Don't try to be like anybody else. Your set is your set, and just keep your foot on the gas, I guess you could say, because that's really how I try to look at it. Like, I want to be who I am while I perform, but also, I want to get the ladies what they come to see. So it's like if you can figure out a way to combine all of that for you though, like I know the way I do it, but figure out the way that you need to do it for yourself. And yeah, you'll look up in no time. You'll be out here. You'll be right out here.
So I have my final question for you, and it's called the Queen's Request. Okay. So I would like for you to suggest to me one or two Michigan Black women performers in any genre, whether if it's burlesque or rap or dance, whatever, that we should be keeping an eye out for.
I feel like okay, well Moses would have been one, but she doesn't perform anywhere. So Girl Flex, she is also another dime entertainer in Detroit. She is the actual king, the queen of Detroit. I'm the prince dime of Detroit, so definitely be on the lookout for my guy, Girl Flex. And wow, I got too many rapper friends, and I feel like okay, I'm gonna go with Dooley Ryder. She's a rapper. Look out for her. Her style is very similar to Moses. Moses is a lot more like smooth and chill. Not as hood. Dooley has a little bit more of a street side, I would say. So those would be my two: Girl Flex and Dooley Ryder.
Okay. Now, is there anything that you would like to promote, like social media or a website?
Yeah, I mean, all my platforms. I try to get, followers on Instagram. I have two pages on Instagram. One of them is Pretti Teej. That's like my personal page, or where I, put just regular posts, if you will. My other page is the One Woman Show 3, the number 3. That is where I post, all of my exotic content. So those are my personal pages. Then of course the podcast Everyday Ish. We're on everything: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm trying to work on a site, so I don't have an official website just yet.
We'll
I think
talk.
that has a lot. Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
talk.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, yeah. Follow me, on social media. Pretti Teej, the One Woman Show 3, or Everyday Ish Pod. I'm on Facebook as well.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. You have opened my eyes to the world of exotic entertainment.
Yes, that is the goal. That is my goal. I want to thank you so much for having me. Honestly, it's
Yeah.
an honor.
Yeah,
It's an honor.
definitely. Yeah, this was really great, and I appreciate you wholeheartedly for coming on here and just chatting with me for an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah. No problem at all. Not a problem at all.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. You can find Black Queens on Stage podcast and Black Literature and Art Queens Network at blackqueensonstage.com and blaqn.org. Follow me on Instagram at BLAQN Show Michigan, on Facebook at BLAQ Show Michigan, and on Twitter at BLAQNMI. You can find all this info in the show notes. Please rate the show and leave a review on Apple Podcast or on Podbean to let me know what you think of the show. Thanks again. Until next time.